Hello, Rebels of the Sherpa Revolution. Normally, I start off this podcast by saying hi, but I'm going to start this one off by saying hydration. We know how important hydration is for our bodies. It's the thing that keeps us running, right? You want to be a well-oiled machine. You want to be running efficiently. You know what can help you run efficiently? Liquid IV. It is the category-winning hydration brand fueling your well-being, and their hydration multiplier is the one product that you are missing in your daily routine. It comes in a little stick that's a powder, and in just one stick, you get 5 essential vitamins and 2 times faster hydration than water alone. If you use it first thing in the morning, maybe before a workout, when you feel run down, maybe after a long night out and doing a little partying, you know what I mean? And even, what if you have like a long flight or something like that and you just bleh, right? We all feel that way, bleh. So add this to your water, and that convenient packaging can go with you anywhere you go, even if you're going to the gym or you're traveling or you're at work and maybe you didn't have a great breakfast. At least it's something that will fuel you up in the morning. And there's a whole bunch of flavors that are available, like sea berry, strawberry lemonade, Concord grape, lemon lime, pina colada, tropical punch, watermelon, strawberry, passion fruit, guava, acai berry. Did I say that right? I never know how to say that. But those are just some of the flavors. Here's some statistics for you folks. 1 stick of liquid IV in 16 ounces of water contains 5 essential vitamins: B3, B5, B6, B12, and even vitamin C. And we all know how important those B vitamins are. It's got 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks. It's made with premium ingredients. It's non-GMO, and it is free from gluten, dairy, and soy. I'm going to offer you a great deal, Rebels. If you go to liquidiv.com and use offer code SHERPA, you can get 20% off of anything that you order on that site when you're shopping for some better hydration. So that's Liquid IV. Check it out at liquidiv.com. Podcast that you're listening to is being presented to you in cooperation with the SJ Network. If you're a person who'd like to appear on a podcast, contact Stephen Joyner at s-j-network.com. Let's get on with the show.
Today, on Too Many Podcasts, it's an interview with Jared Kamrowski, the founder and CEO of thriftytraveler.com.
Anything is better than flying on Podcastia Airlines. Last time I flew with them, the pilot took up a collection for fuel.
And they don't let you board the plane unless you have exact change.
And, before the flight took off, the flight attendant advised us to fasten our Velcro.
Welcome to Too Many Podcasts, the podcast about podcasts. Now, podcasting from the Sherpa Chalet on Mount Podcastia, here's your host, Jim, the Podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, Rebels of the Sherpa Revolution. Welcome to Too Many Podcasts, the podcast about podcasts and so much more. It's me, Jim, the Podcast Sherpa, your friendly neighborhood Sherpa, guiding you through the mountains and mountains of podcasts. But today, it's going to be a little different. It's a so much more episode. You've probably been wondering after all this time, when is he going to do it so much more? And you've come to the right episode, my friends. And my guest today is a guy named Jared Kamrowski, and he is the CEO and founder of thriftytraveler.com. It is a travel website. Of course it is. And he shows you how to get good deals on flights on wherever you are going. So we got the chance to talk about flying and the realities of it, and we got to know Jared for a little bit. This is one that if you love to travel and you've got that traveling bug, you're going to want to have a listen, and everybody else, you guys want to have a listen too, because it's a good one. Let's hear my interview with Jared Kamrowski of thriftytraveler.com. Hello there, Rebels. We are in the destination room at the Sherpa Chalet, and my guest today is the founder and CEO of thriftytraveler.com. His name is Jared Kamrowski. He's coming to us from Minneapolis, Minnesota, right?
That's right. That's right, Jim.
Welcome to the show, Jared.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you originally weren't even in the travel business when all of this started. You were a CPA, is that right?
Yeah, I was a CPA. I worked in banking, but I was traveling a lot for work, which got me kind of into traveling, business traveling, not necessarily leisure traveling. But that's kind of where I learned how to, start to save.
How long has the website been around?
Yeah, the website has been around for 8 years now. So So yeah, I did it. It was kind of like a side hustle, like so many people start their businesses. So I did it as a side hustle for 2 years, and then quit my corporate job. And yeah, I've been doing it full time for, I lose track of time, but 6 years now. So yeah, now we have a team of 20 people, and we're based out of Minneapolis.
When you first did this, I mean, was it kind of weird? Was it a natural transition getting into travel from being a CPA? Where, I mean, I guess, were you picking up that many tricks where you said, you know what, we've got to share this with people? Was that your intention?
Yeah. I actually worked for the federal government. So going from federal government to entrepreneurship is not the most likely transition or the straightest line. But honestly, yeah, I mean, I was traveling for over 100 nights a year, which, I was staying in hotels all over the United States. And I was flying a lot, which just kind of got me acquainted with all these different loyalty programs. And one of the big things for anybody who travels a lot is the credit card side of things, credit card travel rewards, which were relatively new to me when I started that job. And then I got really nerdy with it, as so many people who travel a lot for work do.
We're going to kind of go over some of the pointers that people will need for having a really good, affordable trip. Would you say that's weapon number one, to have like a good travel credit card? Is it necessary, or, is it for the more frequent traveler or like the occasional traveler?
I'd say it's, even for the beginner traveler, I like to think of it like as a toolkit of all these different options of ways to save on travel. Mm-hmm. And a travel rewards credit card is just one piece of that arsenal that you can choose from. I will say it is particularly effective, but I mean, the dangers too are, credit card debt is a huge issue here. Right. In the United States. So there are some pitfalls you need to be aware of as well. So it's not without some caution.
So we can't treat it like a toy, in other words.
No, it can be, it is a fun toy, but yeah, it can be, you got to be careful.
What do you think is like the biggest misconception people have about booking travel?
Really, it's the way people approach travel. So at Thrifty Traveler, we have a rule for booking flights called the flight first rule. Trying to find that cheap flight, because a lot of times your flight is the most expensive, and people don't necessarily focus on the flight first. They're like, I want to go to X destination. Maybe they book a hotel or a tour, and then they try to find flights later on. Mm-hmm. And when you flexibility is the key to saving on travel. So we're all about trying to get people to rewire the way they think and let the cheap flight be their guide to where they go and when they go. Flexibility. You're going to hear me say that a lot.
What about like folks that say they have jobs? We'll just say, just for argument's sake, like a teacher. They get the spring break. They get 2 weeks for Christmas. They get Easter, or let's say spring break or whatever. They have the little winter break. And they're kind of confined to the times that they can choose. What's the best way for them to approach getting a good deal?
Yeah. What you're going to have to do, because, we hear from a lot of teachers, is a common pain point for them is, they have a very limited number of days they can travel. So what you want to do is just look at flights on those different, times that you have off, things like, for example, Thanksgiving. A lot of people don't think about an international trip over Thanksgiving. A lot of people want to be with their family. I get that. But it's actually one of the cheapest times to travel internationally, because people aren't focused on international travel, and flights can be cheaper because it's all about supply and demand. Mm-hmm. So it's just, you're going to have to tinker a little bit. And I will admit, for teachers, it can be a little tough because of the limited options.
And, you were saying like flexibility. Is there a better like day to start a trip and to come back, like not go from a Saturday to a Saturday, or instead of maybe going from like a Tuesday and then come back the following Thursday or something like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the cheapest days to fly, so when your butt's actually in that seat, mm-hmm. are Tuesday, Wednesday, and Saturday's departures and returns. So those aren't the typical days, that people historically have flown. People want to do like Friday to Sunday. Right. But if you can kind of try, maybe tinker with, if you can make it work, Wednesday to Saturday, or maybe Saturday to Tuesday trips, even doing just a brief search for where maybe you want to go, I think you'll find the flights are definitely cheaper if you depart and return on those dates.
You have an article on your website that I applaud your bravery, because I think you're the first person to come out and say there's not a specific time that you should be buying tickets.
No, and thankfully Google, obviously, and we're going to talk about Google Flights shortly, I imagine. But Google's aggregated so much data around flight pricing, which is further supporting a lot of the things we've been saying for many years. You know, that Tuesdays are not necessarily the best days to book a flight. We're not talking about when you actually fly, but the day you book. Really, cheap flights can happen at any time, any day. And really, it's all about using tools like Google Flights to find those cheap flights. Really, that's the key. It's not really when you book.
Right. And I guess because travel is advanced so far, and obviously the internet has played such a huge role in this, that, you know, we have to learn to create alerts too.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Our top recommendation is, again, Google Flights. Google Flights has Google Flights price alerts. You know, a lot of people have used Hopper, the app that also does alerts. You know, using some alerts in some capacity, you know, that's really the key. Because you can't be checking every day. Why wouldn't you set up some kind of an automation to just send you an email when prices drop and then you book?
Right.
And honestly, it really is that easy.
So since I know that I don't have to wait till like Wednesday morning at 2 a.m. to buy a ticket to Toledo, is there a period like where away from the trip, like you have to buy like 6 weeks out before your trip, 3 weeks out? Is there a sweet spot for that, or is it basically the same thing, that just look for the best price and keep your eye on Google Flights?
Yeah, for the most part, you're going to want to avoid booking within 30 to 45 days of departure. This is kind of a standard rule.
Okay.
The closer you get to departure, a lot of times the higher the price gets, because the airlines know that they can charge business customers really any price they want within, you know, a few weeks of departure, because, you know, their businesses are footing the bill and not individuals. So going on leisure trips. So we always say, you know, the booking calendar goes out 11 months. So, you know, always be looking, you know, start 9, 10 months, whenever you figure that you're going to go on a trip. That's when you start setting up those price alerts, monitor pricing. When you see some big drops or get kind of an idea of what a deal might be, you know, that's when you book. So yeah, avoid booking last minute. That's a big pitfall you want to avoid.
Do you think that the travel business has really been that topsy-turvy since COVID?
Since COVID, yes. Like, yeah. I mean, a lot of the rules that you know, were just standard rules of how to find cheap flights, where cheap flights were available. A lot of that stuff has changed. I will say, you know, things are kind of now returning back to the way things were in, you know, 2019. But there's some differences for sure. But there's still plenty of cheap flights to be had. I know with, you know, so many people are aware, you know, with inflation, the flight prices have increased. We've now seen them decrease a little bit. But yeah, there's still cheap flights out there.
You know what I was thinking? What we could do is I want to pretend that you have to take a trip. And I want to, can we kind of pick your brain to kind of walk through what you do? You don't have to use specific brands if you don't want to, but, you know, just to give an idea of what I mean, if there are things that you favor, that's, you know, that's great. So let's say you want to go to Vegas.
So you want me to just walk through how I would book it? Yeah,
sure.
Let's do this. So, you know, the first thing that I would start tinkering with is, I'd pull up Google Flights. And those of you who maybe use Kayak or Priceline or whatever else, stop using that. Definitely use Google Flights. I promise I'm not sponsored by Google Flights.
Okay.
Google Flights, just their data aggregation and just the ease of use is just amazing. And then the fact is, with Google Flights, you can book at the end directly through the airline. So let's say I'm in Minneapolis, I'm looking for a flight to Vegas. You know, based in Minneapolis, I'm probably going to try to find a Delta flight. So I'm going to get on Google Flights. You can filter by airline. You know, maybe I want to save a lot and I want to fly Spirit or another local kind of budget carrier, Sun Country here. And you can filter by what you want to do. You can filter by times. You know, do I want to fly nonstop? Generally, I would say yes. Try to fly nonstop to Vegas. Nobody wants a connection on the return flight home from Vegas. And then, you know, what I would do is I would look at cash flight prices, maybe set up a few alerts. You know, if I have enough time out, you know, let's say maybe it's in 6 months, my trip, I'd set up some alerts. You know, I'd watch those alerts for a while. And then I'd also search, you know, with my, you know, if I want to fly Delta, I'd look on the mileage side. So like kind of the credit card travel rewards, or just travel rewards in general. Maybe I can use my Delta Sky miles instead of using cash, because that's really the next level. The next layer of the onion is like, okay, yeah, I can find a cheap cash flight. Or how about I could use points and miles to book it for free or next to free, relatively. So I would just go through all my different options, for a domestic flight like that.
You'd say, don't buy within 45 days of your intended trip. What about like with hotels and car rentals? Does the same rule apply there?
Yeah, there can be a lot of variability with hotel pricing that doesn't necessarily match up to flights. So like with hotels, for example, sometimes as it gets closer to when an event whenever you want to go somewhere, sometimes the hotel pricing will drop as you get closer to when you'd actually stay. But sometimes it increases. So hotels are really tough. Flight pricing is very predictable usually. You can, there's rules of thumb and expectations. But yeah, it's really tough on the hotel as well as the car rental side. There is a tool called AutoSlash. We have a great article about that at thriftytraveler.com, which allows you, if you do book a car rental, it will monitor pricing and let you know when prices drop, which is pretty slick.
I've actually heard from one show that does travel that says book the car early, and then if you're getting closer to your trip, look on that same website again, or even another website. And if you find it cheaper, cancel that first one and then rebook the car.
Yeah, that's great advice. So to be honest with you, you'd have to just kind of see, with a few weeks left, maybe before you actually depart, if you can get the hotel, if that's cancelable for a full refund, or the car rental, cancel and rebook. That's actually one of the greatest things that came out of the pandemic, is the ability to cancel flights for a voucher. And just the ease of canceling, hotels and rental cars, that's gotten a little easier as well.
That's actually the next question that I wanted to ask you. I know there's been a lot of travel headaches lately with flight delays and people canceling trips and stuff. What's the best protection that a consumer should use when they've got that trip all planned so that they don't have to worry about just losing everything? Is it the trip insurance? Should they just do insurance individually with each item, so if they can change things around? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I'll be honest, we don't do a whole lot of travel or trip insurance, just because the policies can be kind of complicated, and there's just a lot of rules. So we don't necessarily recommend travel insurance unless you have like a huge non-refundable part of your trip. Then maybe you want insurance for that. But, let's say that, your flight gets delayed or canceled. We have some recommendations for how to avoid that. Always trying to fly on like the first flight of the morning, because usually as the day progresses, airlines experience more and more just difficulties, cancellations that can kind of cascade and cause delays and cancellations. So we always say, try to take the first flight in the morning, try to fly nonstop. The more connections you have, the more likely you are to run into problems. And lastly, definitely book a flight that's in a main cabin or higher. So avoid basic economy tickets, because with a main cabin ticket, you can always cancel for a voucher, which just makes it so easy, especially if you want to just cancel, rebook a different flight time. It's just going to make your life a lot easier.
Now, with the airlines, I'm kind of guessing, and I mean, I could be off here, Jared, you can correct me. You seem to be pretty flexible about what airline you take on what trip. I mean, if they're offering you a good deal?
Yes, definitely. So, I speak out of kind of both sides of my mouth, because I do have Delta status. I love flying Delta. I'm here in Minneapolis, which is a Delta hub. But at the same time, loyalty has its costs. You can save a lot of money, by flying American or United a lot of times. And so people put themselves into this situation where, I travel a lot, so I'm able to keep up my status. But people who don't travel that much, they still chase status. And a lot of times it just doesn't make sense. And they should be what we call free agents. They should be going wherever the cheap flight, will take them, and not try to do the loyalty or do anything crazy to keep up status. There's some people that take flights to nowhere, like a Saturday afternoon, and they'll fly like halfway across the country just to keep their status on whatever airline up. And it's just this crazy stuff that people do. So we always say, be a free agent and just take the cheap flight.
Hopefully those are the type of people that can actually find something at their destination.
Some of these people just fly to the destination and get right back on the plane and fly home. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
I can honestly say I've never tried that. So we were talking about your website, which I was getting lost in before our conversation started. And I meant in a good way. I was really fascinated by this one article that you had, that 7 apps to download before you get to the airport.
Yes. Yeah, we would just we're going through, a lot of these newer apps that people might not have actually heard of. I'll just read off a few of them. TripIt, which is more popular, just kind of it's a free travel planning tool. Mm-hmm. They have a great app that keeps everything organized. Another one is Flighty, which helps you just keep ahead of delays and cancellation, where your aircraft's at. They have a paid version, but you can go to thriftytraveler.com. This is in our guides, our travel guides. But yeah, it's smartphone apps, that will help you out at the airport. And our team absolutely loves these apps, and they've definitely made it easier, especially like you said, with delays and cancellations, and just trying to be organized. And some of those apps will let you know, like with your about a delay before the airline actually will let you know. It'll be like, oh, your plane's not going to arrive on time, which can allow you, you can pick up the phone, call the airline, try to, especially if you get a delay or cancellation, or a cancellation, especially, like the first thing you should do is try to either use the app to rebook or call right away before everybody else does the same thing.
You don't have to answer this question if you want to answer no comment. What's probably the cheapest flight that you've ever taken yourself?
Oh, the cheapest flight. I think, the cheapest flight that we found as a company, because we have a flight deal alert service for folks. I didn't get to take it. It was during the pandemic. It was Atlanta to Santiago, Chile. I think it was for like $91.
Wow.
Non-stop round trip. I think it was below $100. I can't remember exactly. I think it was in 2020. But that's the craziest. And that was a Delta flight. I think that's the cheapest flight that I've ever booked. Didn't get to go fly because I don't think Chile was open when my flight actually happened, but I know there was definitely some people who were able to book up far enough that they were able to take that flight.
When we mentioned the credit cards before for the flights and the points and everything like that, is there a good strategy for using those?
Yeah. So what we always recommend is, take things slow. Open up one, travel rewards credit card. You can go to thriftytraveler.com. We have a great beginner's guide that will just kind of walk you through just taking this step by step. Like, we don't want people to start opening up 2-3 cards. Again, that can be a lot to manage. So we just, use the points, open up a card. A lot of times you have to put a certain amount of spend, like $3,000 in spend in your first 3 months. Mm-hmm. And then you get the points. And then we always recommend, trying to take a trip with them. One of the best ways, especially with cards like, Chase Sapphire Preferred or the Capital One Venture, is to just book a cheap flight with those. Because that's the cool thing is if you find a cheap flight, and then that will require fewer points to book it. So I don't want to get too far into the weeds with this. But yeah, just, we always say a lot of people get points paralysis, we call it. They have all these points, but they want to, redeem them for the absolute maximum amount. We always say, just take a trip that you normally, wouldn't take or couldn't afford. And that's really getting good value for your miles. So we just say earn and burn all the time.
Okay. All right. So let me summarize here. So make sure that we're not missing anything. So if you want to book, wait at least 45 days or more to start looking. And we're going to look, we're going to check Google Flights, which is probably one of the best places to find some of the best deals. The airline doesn't really matter, but like you said, if you can find a nonstop flight, that's probably one of your best bet. The hotels may not sync with the trip, but we still got to kind of keep an eye out for those. And there are travel sites for hotels as well that can get people deals, and the same thing with car rentals. I know one of your articles mentioned, I guess, Lyft and Uber kind of playing a bigger part in travel now.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure which article you were reading about, but yeah, Lyft and Uber. We use those everywhere. It's, especially Uber is available, worldwide. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely the key, especially the key to not getting ripped off sometimes, because with Uber, it's, set amount and you don't exchange cash or currency, which makes it easier. But, even with rental cars, we were talking about walking through. I just booked a rental car this evening. My wife and I are going to Maine, Portland, Maine this fall. So when I did that, I did look at a bunch of different rental car websites. And then I also looked at Turo, which Turo is essentially like Airbnb for cars, where you can actually rent individual people's cars, which can be a great way to save as well. So I always do a comparison. It doesn't make sense to rent a car at the airport. Use Turo, where somebody will come to the airport and drop the car off, or you can meet them somewhere. What makes the most sense and can help you save.
And what are your thoughts on the VRBOs and the houses where you're renting as opposed to a hotel? Do you think they're a better deal? Maybe gives you like a little more local flavor, or is overall? I mean, what do you prefer to do?
Yeah, when it comes to Airbnb, VRBO, I mean, we book a lot. My wife and I and our son, we book a lot of those, and they make the most sense for us, especially when we're either traveling with a group of people, like 4 or more, or family trip, where you can, split the cost amongst a bunch of people, get a big Airbnb or VRBO and split the cost, 5, 6, 7, 8 ways. That can make it much cheaper than a hotel. But, if it's just my wife and I traveling, a lot of times we'll just get a hotel because it'll make a lot more sense, especially with Airbnb's fees. Which can be very high. Anybody who's booked an Airbnb can sometimes feel like a bit of a bait and switch. Where the fees make it cost prohibitive and a hotel might make more sense. So it's always going to take a little bit of research and just a comparison of what is the pricing on Airbnb, VRBO versus hotels. That's how you say.
Yeah, and of course, being cautious, making sure that the Airbnb you're booking is exactly the one that you saw online.
Yes.
That's not like a tree fort or anything like that.
You got to read the reviews, and sometimes you got to read more than just the first few. I know I have a very quick example. My wife and I and our family, we went to Scotland, northern part of Scotland, and we got this Airbnb that was super cheap right on the coast. And I was like, how can it be this cheap? It doesn't even make sense. And it's right on the coast. It's in the countryside. The photos look amazing. And then we read like 2 or 3 reviews and we're like, seems great. But we didn't read enough reviews. And when we got there, the reason why the Airbnb itself was very nice. It looked exactly like the photos. But across the street, right on the ocean, was an oil refinery. And there was all these offshore wells. They were lit up all night and it was really loud. And we're like, oh my God, like we should have read the reviews.
One little small detail that a couple of people left out.
Small detail. Got just a beautiful oil refinery out the front window.
If you're going on a tour looking at oil refineries, you found the dream spot, right?
That is. If that is what you're into, I have got the right one for you. No, I know I'm supposed to be a travel professional and we all make mistakes. Sometimes we got to slow down. I know we always talk about, researching. It's going to save you a lot of headaches. Taking the time.
Okay, so before I let you go, let everybody know about thriftytraveler.com. So I don't want to be sure that I've missed anything.
Yeah, head over to thriftytraveler.com. We're a website that's all about travel news, obviously guides and tips. But what we're really known for is our flight deal alert service called Thrifty Traveler Premium, which is a paid service. We also have a free version of that service. And you can just go to thriftytraveler.com/cheap-flights, or just go to the website. There's a bunch of pop-ups and anything that says cheap flights, click on one of those buttons and you can sign up for the service for free. And whether you're in the United States or Canada, we find cheap flights for you from over 200 US and Canadian cities. So no matter where you live, we can find cheap flights for you. So check out, the free service. And if you want more deals, including business, first class, points and miles deals, we've got our paid service, Thrifty Traveler Premium, as well.
All right, there you go. Jared Kamrowski, founder and CEO of thriftytraveler.com. And your wife is the COO, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
I learned that little fact.
Yes.
So everything is a business trip, right?
Yes, everything is a business trip. She's really the boss.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Jared.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
We're on that internet thingy at SherPollution.com.
A very special thanks to Jared Kamrowski, and be sure to check out thriftytraveler.com if you're planning on going away. And if you are going away, wherever you may be going, why not take us with you? You know, I'm kind of small. I can fit in a suitcase, maybe even a carry-on. I'm that kind of flexible, you know? But you know what I mean. You can hear this podcast on your favorite podcast app, sherpalution.com, or on our YouTube channel called, what else? Sherpalution. And that's also where you can follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So we look forward to hearing from you. And don't forget, if you can leave us a nice review on Apple Podcasts and let me know, you will be entered in a contest where you can win free podcast merchandise straight from the Sherpa shop. That's right. It's all there for you. What are you waiting for? Go on the trip. Leave a nice review. I'm giving you so many things to do. Go, do it. Stop listening now. The show is ending. Until next time, folks, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. And until then, Lord Mr. Bruce, let's get on out of here, and let's wish you a hearty Viva la Sherpalution.
Thanks for listening to Too Many Podcasts. Please disperse. You can go home now. I said you can go home now. Viva la Sherpalution. Viva la Sherpalution. Oh. Yeah, I'll come back now, you hear?
You know, Rebels, if you've been checking out some of my promotional ads on social media, you will be aware that I have been using a lot of AI programs to help me create ads. But you know what? There's a lot more uses for AI than just funny little videos. And I'd like to introduce one of our new sponsors, Podium. It is a leader in creating AI tools for podcasters. Now, let's say you've got a podcast, or maybe you're even thinking of doing a podcast. You're probably wondering, well, how can AI be integrated with your workflow? I'll tell you about Podium. As a podcaster, you know that writing show notes and creating chapters and transcribing episodes takes a lot of time, and it can cost you a lot of money too. But you know what? That's where Podium comes in. It's an AI tool designed specifically for creators and podcasters with the goal of making post-production tasks quick and easy. And in just a few minutes, Podium generates show notes, chapters, summaries, clips for social media, a full transcript, suggested episode titles, social media posts, and more. Whew, that's a lot of work for one little program. Your show notes are key to your podcast success because it helps new listeners find your podcast and they'll know if it's a fit for them. You know, kind of like Too Many Podcasts. It also improves your SEO, that's your search engine optimization. Ooh, big phrase there. And overall accessibility. And with Podium, you can focus on creating a great podcast and let Podium's AI do the heavy lifting. But Podium isn't just for solo creators and podcasters. It's a game changer for editors, producers, marketers, agencies, and production studios. Teams that use Podiums are able to increase workloads, decrease turnaround times, and improve their quality. How does it work? Very easy. First, go to Podium's website, and you'll see that link that's right there in the show notes. You get 3 hours free just to try it. Pretty cool, huh? And using that link also supports this show as well. And you know what else happens? Because I'm a good guy. You use my link, you will get 50% off for your first month. So visit the site, upload an MP3 file, and download your files, and that's it. And if you need anything else, you can use Podium GPT to generate articles and any marketing copy you might need in seconds. Instant show notes, transcripts, chapters for your podcast or channel. This will level up that podcast. So check out Podium today.